I'm Tabasco, and this is the Pain Train. This is Garage Therapy for Monday, whatever the hell date it is, 7:15. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick us off, Pain Train. I'm gonna check this audio.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We're glad to have you uh, again
Sure,
this week.
sure better than sitting here talking to you by myself.
Yeah, that might be true, but it'll be far less entertaining.
This is true.
I was a lot of stuff has happened this week. Especially, I'm sure everybody's been watching the news. Um, so it's caused me to do a lot of contemplating on the state of the
Speak up.
country we live in today
Speak louder.
versus the state of the country that we had back in the early to mid 40s. And I was thinking about the United States military. And I don't know if anybody in the Tick-Down universe knows this or not, but um, we had a far superior fighting force in the military in 1940s than we have even today. Right now, as we speak today, there's not quite 3 million, maybe right at 3 million members of the United States military that are active in the country today, and that includes all branches, active duty, reservists, National Guard, what have you. And it seems like quite an amount of people, but I want you to understand something. Back in the early 1940s, just as we were going into World War II, and they had enacted the draft, we had over 11 million active duty military members in our armed forces. And before they enacted the draft, we had over 6 million. And that was in the 1940s. And I got to thinking about that today, and it made me wonder if we were to put up the military that we have today against the military that we had in the 1940s, who would come out victorious? Yes, there's no doubt that we have far superior weapons today than we had in the 1940s.
Hey, brother.
But having over 11 million, almost 12 million members compared to 2.3 million today, the sheer numbers alone would be superior. And I mention all of that because I think one of the things that we had going on for us back in the 1940s, and I can thank a lot of Gen Xers today for a return to that, because in the wars that we've been in over the last couple of decades in the Middle East, most of those wars have been fought by Generation X. So we're proud to have the X-Men on the battlefield. But when you look back at the military in the 1940s, you've got to sit back and take notice that we had twice as many members, even before the draft was enacted. And that tells me that every kid was coming off the farm and going into the recruiting office and joining up to go fight on the foreign field because they love this country. And that just leads me to the next subject. When you're dealing with patriotism like that, you've got to remember how bikers and motorcycle clubs first even came on the scene. Most of them came from a desire that veterans who are coming back from the war had to recreate the camaraderie and the brotherhood that they experienced on those foreign fields. So therefore, many of the bikers were veterans and combat veterans themselves, and they formed these brotherhoods and these clubs. And you know the story, you know the history of the one that the media would try to propagate, that Life magazine wrote about the events in Hollister, California. Um, of course, they're only going to accentuate the points that favor their point of view versus the bikers, and where one percenters first got their name. Um, but the real story behind all that is the brotherhood that these men experience, um, and how it transposed from the battlefield onto the motorcycles, um, and the chapters and the clubs that were formed as a result of their experiences in the military. And what that has done throughout history, going all the way back to then, up until now, you've got bikers and patriots um, side by side. Many of them are one and the same. Um, that's why you find today organizations like the VFW, the American Legion, the AMVET, and so on and so forth, who have their own version of riders in the organization, um, because they're synonymous, the bikers with patriots.
I mean, that's where they came from originally, supposedly. I mean, so they say. I don't know. I haven't tracked clear back to the first Hellfighters. You know, that came out of what, World War II.
Yes.
They're tied to that because of the community and camaraderie. They're still in that go.
A little bit. It was a little bit.
But anyway, the camaraderie of being in a military unit together, and then coming back and clear back to, it was World War II, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So and tying that unity as the brotherhood that they no longer had.
Oh yeah.
But then a lot of the 1%ers and stuff, I believe, still came out of the like the race, the flat track racing and stuff. But yeah, but again, the camaraderie and brotherhood carries on through, and that's why there's so many military clubs now.
Oh yeah, you've got them all over the place, and my point being that so much so that it's, especially with motorcycle enthusiasts today, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, because these guys and gals, most of which are veterans or the children of veterans, all have jobs. They all have careers. Most of them now who are entering retirement age have pensions and motorcycles, trailers, and homes. and they're the ones attending these events, which leads me to not just bikers with patriotism, but it's the charitable, the charities that they represent, and the money raised for them. One of the biggest charity events there is going right now is it started back in 1988, and that was Rolling Thunder. Um, and of course, that in 1990 they changed that to Rolling to Remember, but it basically was still the same event to focus on uh, POWs, MIAs, and then in 1990 they added to it because of the epidemic of suicides among veterans, suicide prevention among veterans. Because, unfortunately, um, from the 90s all the way up till present, um, there are between 22 and 24 veterans per day who commit suicide in this country. Yeah.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, it's a terrible thing. It's an epidemic. Um, and it's very sad because we got these young men and women who are still fighting the same kind of fight we've been fighting for years, um, who desperately need care and mental health treatment. And it's very difficult when you have a system that's overwhelmed, overloaded.
I think that the problem with the mental health care system, period, there isn't one. Honestly, in the United States, they've never known what to do with it. Clear back to one of the stories that we read before my time was these sanitariums, that are all over.
Oh yeah.
There were several in Southern Ohio. They have no one. They have never ever figured out how to deal with that. Period.
Oh yeah.
Psychological damage and mental issues. They still don't know. In fact, they've just chosen to ignore it, and it is one of the biggest problems in the world. The brain is so hard to figure out. Is it mental?
Exactly.
Is it physical? Is there a physical injury or deficiency? And then obviously psychological. But they don't know how to deal with it. That's why we have all these homeless veterans living on the street. There aren't enough mental health care facilities. That's, again, I'm not going to get into where I'm getting banned, but, why we're giving away billions of dollars to countries that hate us, that we have absolutely no business in, when all of that money, or a majority of that, or all the money that went over there could have went to go into facilities to treat the people who are, especially the veterans that are homeless, but everybody, I understand they don't know what to do with it, but if you had a decent place for them to lay their head in the 10 classes, that's a whole industry that could have been made. Instead, they choose to ignore it. And I've heard in some states that I think, I don't want to misquote, but it may have been California, that somewhere they made it illegal to be homeless. You can't even be homeless. And they're tearing their kids. Where the hell do you think these people are going to go? I mean, they don't offer solutions. They just go and tear down their tent cities and stuff. With no regard, and where are they supposed to go? They're in
that's exactly right.
Don't even get me started on the fact that we've got hotels full of people that aren't even U.S. citizens, and there's 3 hotels in a row. Again, on a video I saw this week on one of these social media platforms, where there's 3 hotels in a row. I think possibly New York, I'm pretty sure, and they're 8-story hotels, and all 3 in a row are 100% full of these immigrants. I mean, our homeless veterans would like to have a nice clean room to stay in, and brand new furniture being delivered by like a fleet of trucks. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't even know how you fix it.
Well, the sad part about it is that they don't even know what to call it. I know that I have an uncle, and I had an uncle. He's passed away now, but today is popularized if you've been in combat or war, or you're the victim of a violent crime. They have a name for what happens to you, and they call it PTSD. Well, they didn't always have that handle for that. Back in my uncle's time, because I was a combat veteran too, and I do have PTSD. But back in his time, they called it shell shock.
Oh yeah.
And he spent his entire life, when he got back from the military, this guy was a Rhodes Scholar. He was educated at the best colleges, went to Oxford University in England, and was commissioned as an officer in the United States Army. And this guy came back from the war thinking he was Jesus Christ and trying to kill my grandmother to save her. He was out there.
Well,
and the only thing they did for him was put in the crazy ward of the VA, and he lived his entire life in the hospital until they released him. He got and went and lived on the street until he died. They didn't treat his problem; they treated the symptoms
right.
with
Well, they don't
medication.
Problem. And well, that's the America right there. Is drugs. Drugs are the answer to everything because there's profit in it. Again, the profit's not in the cure; it's in the treatment.
Exactly.
Although I do know some friends or people, my ex-wife one, who went to a state hospital in the last 10 years. And I have another brother who had an addiction issue who also went to get some of that. And I don't know, they said it wasn't as bad as you hear the horror stories back in the day, but justice. My grandfather was a good example because he joined the Navy at 17 years old in World War II. He's been long past now, but that man was crazy. And I'm talking about he was brutal. He was a mean, brutal person. You heard my uncle Greg talk about him. But you know, he was like Jackie Gleason is what he reminded me of, but not funny as much. But very violent and very intolerant man. And I mean, he was abusive to what I understand. My grandmother, before they got divorced way back when, he was spare the rod, spoil the child. It was the leather belt. I mean, the stories I've gotten about him, I already knew he was an asshole. I mean, I felt like he was growing up, But then as he got older and towards his 70s, and he died, I think, 72, he softened up a lot. But I just never really understood why he was the way he was until he passed away. And I had just hooked up a brand new surround sound system. And this was back in 90 something, I don't know, maybe 2000. And there was a party going on at the neighbors. I wanted to get over there, but I was like, I got to, see this thing. And I put in Saving Private Ryan because what I had. And I stood there dumbfounded for the first 10 minutes, 11 minutes, that opening scene. And it was all the pinging and all the ricocheting going on and that bass and and I just stood there like with my mouth open. And my grandfather was in Normandy on D-Day. He was also in Iwo Jima. Yeah. And he was 17 when he joined. He was 18, I think, when he deployed as a medic. I mean, so he was a Navy foreman. Yeah. And he wasn't a doctor. He was 18 years old. 17 when he went. I don't know how the hell they qualified you to be a medic, I guess, but they probably expect life very long anyway. But if he spent 10 minutes on that beach, like I spent 10 minutes in the living room watching that, well, no wonder the man had tremendous mental issues and PTSD that was never diagnosed in World War II veterans. Unfortunately, even though it's diagnosed now, I don't know what they offer. I mean, you go to the VA. I mean,
the only thing they offer, man, is they assign you a psychiatrist who then writes you prescriptions. That's pretty much it.
It's all just the drugs, man. And I get it, where they had the epidemic with the barbiturates or what the hell is it?
Opiates.
Yeah, opiates. So they had this big old thing. And before we moved down here, I know that there was a lot of pain medicine shops or pain doctors that were I guess, I don't know, misprescribing them or something. And they say it created a big pandemic. They're not fixing the problem. They're trying to put a ban on it. So, but now, when I went and had those surgeries, and it was a holiday weekend, it was Thanksgiving, and they wouldn't give me any pain medication. I ended up getting that rare but odd thing where you get anesthesia poisoning, where you wake up and you you hurt every single muscle in your body hurts. I never hurt I felt like, I mean, beyond anything I could ever tell you about getting run over by a truck. But yet they wouldn't prescribe me. And every time I go into like a surgery, they won't prescribe you any pain medication because you can tolerate. Well, that's exactly what it was invented for, you morons.
Yeah.
I understand if you had an issue where you were over prescribing or what the hell ever went on with that. It has nothing to do with me. It literally is for post surgery for pain, and they won't even give you a damn prescription now.
No, they're all paranoid to use the medication that is designed to help, because maybe there are a few people who abuse it, but you can't make everyone suffer because of a few. It's ridiculous. But
well, I don't know of any. I don't know of one person I've met since I've been here and down in Florida anyway that doesn't sell or have to sell part of their pain med because they can't survive on Social Security $1,000 a month or $800 a month. But when I told my doctor or surgeon when I'd gotten a hold of her like that next week, I said, you know what you made me do? You made me call somebody from the street and have them bring me. You are literally not preventing this whole epidemic of illegal selling them. You're promoting it when you won't give pain medication to somebody who's just had surgery, and I have to call the street to get it.
Let me just say that's allegedly called the street.
Well, I mean, I called DoorDash. Yeah, allegedly, prove it, but yeah, I'm just saying that it does the exact opposite of what they intend when they don't they over police. And again, allegedly, I don't know anybody that's older. They should be probably taking all of the pain pills. Who aren't forced to sell some of them just to make ends. It's ridiculous, man. And you know what? I don't know what I'm bitching about because it is just a tip of the iceberg. On all the ridiculousness of this country. But what really pisses me off is when our veterans are still out there suffering, man. And now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's the funny thing about it is that the veterans are suffering and the veterans' families, because whoever the veterans' spouse is, their family, they're suffering right along with them because they're having to watch that person in agony and torment. They're the same ones that suffer with them when they're deployed and they're away. So, and to know that these people who put their lives on the line for this country and the country treats them the way they do, yet they still wind up being the population who are the most giving, the most charitable, and the most willing to still, after years of neglect and abuse, are still willing to strap on the boots and go right back out and fight another fight all over again. We have a tremendous fighting force among the veterans of this country and their families. And this Rolling Thunder or Rolling to Remember charity ride is an example of that. I mean, you've got 90 chapters of people in over 29 states, all doing rides throughout the year in preparation for this main event on the mall in DC. And we're talking about millions of bikers that show up for this every year and have been doing that since the mid 80s. And there's no sense that it's going to be slowing down anytime soon. But like I said, 90 chapters in 29 states, with anywhere when it started between 500,000 and 3 million riders all at one time riding the same route through DC. And still, all these years later, fighting for the recognition of POWs, MIAs, and now suicide prevention for veterans. And from what I understand, um, the AMVETs were significant in getting this whole thing going back in the 80s. And thank goodness that there's organizations like the AMVETS, the American Legion, the VFW, and what have you. They're still fighting for veterans' benefits and issues even now, all these years later. I will say that the Rolling to Remember, the Rolling Thunder, they are not an MC. They're not a riding club or anything like that. They're a 501c4 organization, charitable organization, raising money for veterans issues. And it's just goes to show when you've got all these members and all these several chapters, it makes me think, well, look, let's go beyond that. You got the Rolling to Remember chapters. Look at how many Harley dealerships you have in the nation and the world today. Every Harley dealership or group of dealerships have a hall group that has members and chapters. Um, and they have regular scheduled events. And you go on and on. You got the Elks, the Moose Lodge. You have all these places that have these riders and these groups, and they're all involved in charity and veterans issues and their families. And it all stems from what we first started talking about, patriotism, and how it ties in with the bikers. Because I don't care what kind of biker you are. You can be just a motorcycle enthusiast, a weekend warrior. You can be an MC member. You can be an RC member. You could be a member of a 1% club. It doesn't matter. Uh, the fact of the matter is, all these people across the board, from what I've seen, what I've experienced in my life in this world, are patriots. They all love this country and the freedom that we have here. That's one of the reasons why we chose the lifestyle that we live. It's because of the freedom that it represents. And who fought for freedom? But the veterans of the United States, um, who just happen to be patriots. And I think that's a tremendous thing to recognize and point out among bikers, because I don't know about you, Tabasco. Well, let me take that back. I'm pretty sure I do know about you. I've heard rumors. But in your experience in club life, as with mine, how many people did you know in the chapters you served with who were actually veterans?
Oh, I mean, many.
Tons.
Yeah, I won't. I'll say it got less. I feel like that a lot of the veterans that came back from Afghanistan and even Desert Storm, Desert Shield, which are more my friends' age, from school and from life, they they didn't really resonate to the bike lifestyle.
Yeah.
Not. I don't think as many maybe did way back when, but there are a lot more, like you said, there are a lot more veteran organizations like legions and AMVETs. And I was I was a member at the AMVETs before actually I went and started into the clubs. I mean, I kind of was born around my whole life, but to make a commitment to actually join, I waited until later. I had, I was a breeder. I had kids
Mhm.
young, so I needed to get that done
Mhm.
before I even went and committed myself to the club life. But so I joined AMVETS because you gotta go somewhere. You take your kids on Friday night, drink some beer, eat some fish or whatever. And so I ended up becoming the Sons Commander. So we have the regular veterans, we have the Sons, which are I was sponsored by my grandfather, which I was very proud of. And then we had the Women's Ladies Auxiliary. One thing I will say is that no matter what the organization, club life or not, or club like that, social club, I think you put 30 or 60 people together, you're going to end up with cliques. You're going to end up with backstab. I mean, I saw before I even went to the club life, I saw a lot of backstabbing and cliques and working against each other. And I'm like, gosh, damn guys, this is a charitable order. This is a charity organization. They all but voted me against having a poker run out of there. We're not a bike thing. We're not a bike motorcycle organization. I say, excuse me, you're wrong because there's a national AMVET riders. I as the Suns commander, I could sponsor that, okay, and we could have that right here. I could call for that. I have that right. And I'm not trying to do that because I don't want to take away from the AMVETs Club and military veterans. So anyway, they let me. It was a narrow pass. They let me have it. And last week I think we were talking to Tony, who's up there. His brother's club now runs that since I moved away, and it's still the largest money making event they have of the year.
Wow.
It smoked everything because there are a lot of veterans who ride. Maybe
Absolutely.
they don't ride in a club, but they ride.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know, DNA. You're supposed to be on, but I can't figure out this thing out. I swear to God, this platform's so damn hard to figure out.
I'm on.
I
Can
got
you hear me?
volumes up everywhere. I'm sure I got mixing boards up everywhere. You need a producer for this stuff. But
Can
it is
Can you hear
really
me?
hard to.
Nope.
Yeah, I see you there. Put this other headset on. I've got. Yeah, yeah. Now I can hear you. I've got a several laptop running with an alternative profile. Okay, backup profile, and I can hear you like the public can hear you, but I can't hear you from this live from the dashboard. I cannot hear you. I don't understand that. That's really weird.
That's above my pay grade.
But go ahead and keep talking for a second.
Yeah.
Not you, him. There you go. All right, that's fine. I just wanted to check your audio level, DNA, because last week I had you really loud.
So it still ain't working. You still can't.
Delay lag in between me talking through the live and then actually picking it up on another laptop.
Yeah, that's studio, man. That's
I know
studio.
the public can hear you. We're just not hearing you in our headset, right?
Yeah, I can't hear.
You hearing him?
No.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I said there is a bit of a delay. I know that I fixed that last week by turning up one of the volumes on for one of these connections on the mixing board. It's called Voice Meter. That's a pain in the ass, dude. You need to have a full-time producer. But we got it last week, right at the end, didn't I?
Yeah.
But anyway, let me see. I'm still messing with it,
Studio is
Yeah, I
pain in
don't know.
the
It just
ass.
said it calls to that.
Okay. Speaker's thing there.
Yeah, I may switch over that OBJ or whatever they call it or something. But again, that's also. I think the easiest way to do all of this stuff is a phone. Really, I mean, it's all designed for apps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, on the phone would be a lot easier.
I can't hear
I
him.
can only hear him because I can hear him from the other profile. I'm trying to figure out how to bring him up in our. Yeah, I can hear you.
And I can see his thing there on the screen.
Yeah, I don't know. This is man, it's a pain in the ass, dude. You gotta have a full time producer. Um, but last week I was able to pull him up at the last minute, and we were able to actually hear him at the end. Say something, DNA.
Yeah. It ain't working.
Yeah, see, I hear you.
Not happening.
We're just not. Yeah, we're just not hearing you on our headsets through the wire. And,
What happens? What happens if you hit that sound check thing?
sound check just lets me pull volume up here. It's not bad. It has to do with these aux inputs and start pulling. That should be that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the speaker. I don't know. We'll try it again next. I wish they'd let you practice. I guess on Meta when you go live, you can actually do a pretend live, so you can actually play with it, practice without actually going live. Where again? No, last week I had him. That's irritating hell, man. I don't know, buddy. Well, you might as well drop off. We can't hear you through the headset. All right. So anyway, well, every week we're like, I'm fighting. I spend half my time
Yeah,
fighting.
no.
I mean, it's tough.
Yeah. Well.
But you know what? I mean, I feel like we're going to need those military experience of our veterans that are home, and a lot of these men and women, they're not that old. I mean, they're
not at all.
I know they're not because they're like my age, not that old at all.
Yeah.
Not like your age.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we're talking about bikers and patriots and motorcycle clubs and so on and so forth. I think it's very easy to see with 50 states in the United States, not to mention the territories of the United States, the sheer number of bikers that there are, let alone motorcycle clubs. And the funny thing about it, I don't even think the government wants the citizens of this country to even know how many of these patriot bikers there are, because in doing some research, I did find that the Department of Justice only recognizes 300 motorcycle clubs in the United States and all its territories. Now, I think you would have to agree there are a lot more than 300 motorcycle clubs in the United States and the United States territories.
Yeah, I mean, are they calling it? Are they just count like what they consider to be OMG or what?
That's what they're doing. They're counting them OMG, and just not even count the rest of these clubs and organizations. They're filled with bikers who are also veterans and patriots.
Yeah, no, I would have been great. I would have been just fine with them not counting mine. The clubs I was in. But
yeah, me too. It would have helped me on my pre-sentence investigation report.
Right. I'm gonna blast this out because there's no with my profile. Which was weird. Now, if TnT's along with that one, then it is.
Yeah, what's going on? Hey, you still got us in timeout, brother?
No, it was. I mean, it was up and down. I mean, it comes and goes, and he said, I don't know. I was trying to push it out and promote it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Weird. Well, I mean, again, if I wasn't having a constant fight with, this audio and things that stay on more on target. But I think that
Yeah.
if they would come together, then they would see. I mean, if the shit ever hits the fan here, I don't know. I mean, it all depends on how it comes at,
Oh yeah.
how it would come to be about. Because I think that they would, if they would combine together, they would be quite a hell. I bet you there's. I mean, I'm not talking about the United States being 300. I mean, there 3,000. I mean, you can't even count the number.
Oh, that's exactly right, brother. There's time.
I just wonder, could they get along well enough that if things without having a hierarchy, amongst each other, because you really need to come together as patriots and fight for this country without any of the we're better than you type thing going on.
Yeah, I always think, and I thought about this over the years, and it always takes me to one place. You remember a little movie called The Dirty Dozen?
Vaguely.
Well,
that's an old. That was like black and white.
No, it was when color first came out. That's when it was called Technicolor.
I remember that at the Peacock.
Yeah, but it had Lee Marvin, Jim Brown, football player Jim Brown from Ohio.
That was Mean Gene Green.
That was Mean Joe Green in Pittsburgh. Yeah, but you figure you would have known Jim Brown because he played for the Cleveland Browns.
That was like 7 or maybe 8.
I mean, come on, man. He's an Ohio legend.
Yeah, I don't know. But
the movie, The Dirty Dozen, is all about 12 guys on death row.
Oh, okay.
And the military comes to them and says, okay, boys, we got a special mission. And if you complete this mission and you don't die, we're going to commute your sentence and let you go.
Huh.
Which is not a bad deal when you're on death row.
Oh, sure.
So they developed the same problem you're talking about right now, because you're talking about 12 guys who were alpha males. And all those alpha males wanted to be in charge.
Right.
But they also had a major who is in charge of the mission. He was in charge. So he had to help them understand they had to work together.
Okay.
And it would be the same principle with joining all these clubs full of alpha males. Who's going to be in charge, and having people who are strong of leaders,
right,
to understand that somebody has to follow. Somebody has to teach how to follow and allow somebody maybe with a better skill set to actually lead. And be able to step back from that and help that person be a leader. But it was, the bottom line is that the mission wound up being a huge success. A bunch of them got killed, but not all of them.
Right.
Not all.
Show that you are real. One shot and there ain't no appeal. One shot to show you're superior. You get one shot